Good morning. Hello. Hi. Cristiano. Lang. Up north. What's up, Sammy? Jay-Z. The Owens. What's up, Sean? What's up? I choose Sanity. Cool name. Reagan. Gabriella. Hello, everybody. Honor God's Grace. What's up, Amber? KT. Eric. What's up, buddy? How's everybody doing today? Jason, what's up there in Montana, my friend? Type in the comments where you're checking in from so that we know. Guten Morgen. I got a little bit of German in my blood too. I think that's German. Chicago. We got Justin Ford. Justin being Justin. Be sure to follow that account, Justin being Justin. That's a good friend of mine. He has some very good stuff on social media. What's up, guys? Type in the comments where you're checking in from. So today's walk talk is why you should honor your own boundaries. Now, if you are new to my ministry, my name is Matt McMillen. I'm a Christian author. I've written 7 books. All my books are available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. Check them out if you get some time. Now, if you've read a book of mine, please go back to Amazon, leave me a review, and then come on back. Or just, well, you would probably be doing that later. So do that later. Also, I have a podcast. I'm recording the latest episode live on Instagram. This is where I record them, and then I refurbish them onto my podcast and also on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, pause the podcast, please. Leave me a quick review and then come on back. Those reviews help the podcast and also my books go up in the algorithms on Amazon and also on each podcast platform. What else? I also am on YouTube. The YouTube format, I didn't realize this when I started doing YouTube. There's a lot of people on YouTube who are not on social media and do not listen to podcasts. So the audience that is on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. What's really cool about YouTube is you can go back and you can search all of my past walk talks. Good morning, guys. Hey, what's up, Trent? You could go back and search all my past walk talks on YouTube by category, Bible verse, anything that you've got on your mind that you want to listen to my past walk talks, search it on my YouTube channel. If I haven't talked about that subject yet, I probably will eventually. So be sure to check that out. All right. I'm not a pastor. I'm a regular person just like you. The word pastor, not that pastors aren't regular people, but according to what we see in the box church today, a pastor is something that is nowhere to be found in Scripture. The word pastor is there, but the description of what we see today in our modern church is not there. So I always put that in my introduction when I remember to do so, because I want you to be confident in who you are. You don't have to have any particular title to talk about Jesus. You don't have to have a particular gender to talk about Jesus. And a lot of the things that we see today in our modern box churches, when I say box church, I'm just talking about the dime a dozen church that you see everywhere. A lot of the stuff that is practiced is simply passed down tradition of men. Both Jesus warned against the tradition of men, as did Paul. And here we have it. We've got a top-down authority system with somebody on top with a title. Jesus even said it will not be like this among us. So I want to renew your mind and let you know that I'm not a pastor. I'm a regular person, a body member of the ecclesia, no greater than you, no less than you. We are all equal. We are all vital members. Nobody's in charge. Nobody's even the head except for Jesus. We see that in the book of Colossians. Now, also, I don't know everything, so I'm learning and growing just like you. And if you follow a ministry and they're like, I know everything, I'm never wrong, that's more or less a cult. It's not a cult, but it's got cult-like tendency, cult-like characteristics, okay? So if you have one person in charge of everything and that one person knows everything, even in the New Covenant community, they're never wrong. Just let some red flags fly up and pay attention to that, because you're not supposed to know everything. You're supposed to trust Jesus, and you're supposed to be yourself and love others. It's so simple. So it's good to know stuff, don't get me wrong, but I want you to be confident in what you know so far. If I can help you in any way, the only thing I'm going to do is let you know what I have learned so far based on what Christ has accomplished through the cross, through the resurrection, as well as who you are as the new creation. Now, bear with me while I cross this road here. I don't see any cars coming. Okay. Also, if you want to contact me, please don't message me on social media. I don't interact with those. To contact me, I welcome your interaction. Go to my website, go to the contact page. I'll be glad to interact with you there. Unless you're abusing it, I'm probably not going to respond to that. Or if you keep asking me the same question, I'm not going to continue to say the same thing. Or, no disrespect, if it's just a question where I'm just like, I have no response to this, I probably won't respond to it. Okay, so I welcome any type of interaction, but just understand, I'm a regular person, you're a regular person, we can all reason together, and the focus always needs to be on loving one another. Okay. All right, so let's get to today's Walk Talk. Why you should honor your own boundaries. And just a really quick sidebar here, in case you're wondering why I do, let's get to today's walk. I do that because that is the cue that I'm getting ready to start the actual walk talk. Some people, they want to listen to the whole introduction in the future on the podcast, on my YouTube channel. But if you've listened to a couple hundred episodes and you can mouth the same words from my introduction, it's probably time that you start to skip. But then again, sometimes I do talk about other stuff in the introduction. But if you're listening in the future, you can skip till you get to the part where I say, let's get to today's walk talk. That's when I'm typically going to start. And another just quick sidebar. The reason why I do those introductions is because it saves me tons of questions. When I first started doing these, I had questions all the time. Now I just put it in my introduction. There you go. If you're new, it helps you understand some stuff about me. If you're somebody who has followed my ministry for years, you already know. You probably just sit there sipping your tea or your coffee or, running on the treadmill. It's going to be pretty much the same thing, the same bullet points. All right, guys, why you should honor your own boundaries. So what is this boundaries you're talking about, McMillen? This is just psychobabble. Now, when you get into anything that will take away some power from somebody, get ready for some kickback. Boundaries are pretty much overall vilified in the church. When I say in the church, sure, you can say in the actual church building, but I'm talking about us, the ecclesia, the living organism. Boundaries, you can't have boundaries. Does God have boundaries? And the reason why it immediately, boom, triggers them, and I've been talking about boundaries for years. If you go back, you can read everything I've written about it in my books. Go to my website, go to the topics page, type in boundaries, or just go to my YouTube channel. I've done a couple walk talks on boundaries, and I try to stick them in a couple times a year just to recenter on how important it is to have boundaries. There is somebody in your life right now who is benefiting from you not having strong enough boundaries. Somebody. I don't know who it is. And I hate to scan the crowd and say that stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody in your life right now who is benefiting greatly from you having no boundaries for them. Actually, it's for yourself, and we're going to get into that. Or maybe just really weak boundaries. Weak boundaries are pretty much no boundaries at all. So boundaries, the church vilifies boundaries pretty much overall. And the reason why is it removes somebody's ability to take advantage of you. It removes somebody's ability to dominate you. It removes somebody's ability to continue to treat you poorly. And a lot of them will do it in the name of God. Boundary crossing has been happening for a very long time. And what's interesting to me is The encouragement of poor treatment is the opposite of boundaries. You're just supposed to take it. You're just supposed to deal with it. You're just supposed to put up with it. What would Jesus do? Oh, just be quiet. Oh, let it go. Oh, don't talk about that. Oh, he's sorry. Oh, she's sorry. Let it go. Now, I got the little southern twang because that's how I heard it a lot. But, you could do it with, any accent. When somebody is attempting to sweep poor treatment under the rug, that's not okay. And saying that it is the Christian thing to do to allow boundary crossing to happen is not biblical. And I'm going to prove that today. There's nothing in the Bible which encourages poor treatment of you. Nothing. The only part of the Bible where we see Jesus encouraging poor treatment, now get this, is when he is revealing the poor treatment of those who are treating others poorly, such as Matthew chapter 5. You don't get to do an eye for an eye. You don't get to do a tooth for a tooth. Nope. Turn your cheek. Who was he saying that to? The people who were treating others poorly. The people who were encouraging poor treatment in the name of Yahweh. Yeah, you don't get no return on your loan. You give them a loan, you better not expect anything back. That's a major boundary crossing for many families today. Just keep giving them money, keep giving them money, keep giving them money, keep giving them money. Oh, we've got it. Oh, they just need some help right now. Yes, but it's never ending, and they're not paying anything back. This has got to stop. But according to Matthew chapter 5, the people who were giving loans, no, you don't get your loan back. So the only time Jesus encourages poor treatment is when he is exposing the people who are treating others poorly. Everything else that you see in Scripture is the antithesis of that when describing somebody who has trusted God. Yes, even before the cross. A perfect example of this would be when Jesus flipped tables in the temple courts. Who is the poor treatment being thrown at? Those who said, this is our temple, you don't get to do anything here. But God specifically roped this section off, air quote, roped this section off. This was a part of the temple courts where Gentiles were supposed to be able to pray. They weren't involved with the old covenant, but he still included this area as a house of prayer. The legalistic jerks who were treating them poorly, how did Jesus treat them? Okay, so we can see boundary crossing. That boundary right there, that section of the temple courts was for the believing Gentiles who did not have the covenant, but they still trusted Yahweh. And whose tables did Jesus flip? Those who were cashing in on the law of Moses by selling goats and calves and doves and everything else to go into the temple to receive their forgiveness at the Day of Atonement. That boundary crossing right there proves that poor treatment of others is never encouraged by Jesus. Our modern church does not believe this. They think that poor treatment is what you're supposed to endure as a Christian, and you're not. Here's what happens when you allow poor treatment to continue. You're going to struggle with, number one, severe resentment. You will resent that person. You're either going to do it in a passive-aggressive way, an aggressive way, or the shoe will fall eventually. Because the boundary crossing is not okay, and it's not supposed to be crossed. So here's what I want to do today. I want to prove today that God sees you as valuable, so valuable, your boundaries are worth respecting. You know, the modern church wants to completely disregard boundaries overall in the name of God, in the name of serving, in the name of submissiveness, and that's not what Scripture teaches us. We see that God is the God of all comfort. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, He is the God of all comfort. So if He is the God of all comfort, but this person is causing a lot of harm to me, is that okay? No, it's not. We also don't want to confuse this person harming us with God. God is not harming you. It is the person. I will repeat that. God is not the one harming you. Even if that person is saying that they are doing it in the name of God, it is that person. God comforts you. He does not cause you pain and then swoop around to the other side and let me comfort you. That's what that person will do. He is called the Comforter twice in the book of John. John 14 and John 15. So if He is the Comforter, not the pain causer, this individual who is doing something in the name of God, or not in the name of God, and you're just supposed to deal with it, we must separate these actions that are coming from other people from who God is, because that's not God. That's people. Many people give up on their relationship with God because somebody who is, air quote, representing God treated them in a very poor way, therefore crossing major boundaries. So they don't want nothing to do with God. God didn't cross your boundaries, friend. He respects you. That person crossed your boundaries. That person was doing something contrary to who they are as a holy person if they were a Christian. Now here's another thing. Just because they're doing harmful things to you doesn't mean they're not a Christian. You become a Christian once in your lifetime by grace through faith in Jesus. Your actions after that mature, so you can't accuse somebody of you're not really saved or you're demon possessed. Now, they might be influenced by demonic activity, but they're not possessed. They're not unsaved just because they're treating you poorly. They're doing something that God within them is saying, don't do that. Don't treat them like that. But they're doing it anyway. Happens all the time. So God is the God of all comfort. He is the Comforter. He wants you to live at peace with everybody. But sometimes that's not a possibility. Not on your end, but on the other end, because they will not respect your boundaries. And the more you ignore them disrespecting your boundaries, I'm going to get to what boundaries are here shortly, but I want to introduce who God truly is. If you don't know who He is, He's not crossing your boundaries. I want to remind you who He is. He's not crossing your boundaries. He lets you do you. Now, when you are saved, you become one spirit with Him. So when you attempt to do you and you are doing you in a way which is actually not doing you, He's going to remind you that's not for you. And I'm still with you, and I'm still committed to you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. When you are faithless, I remain faithful. He doesn't leave and then come back. Boundary crossers do that when they don't get their way. They will do everything they can possibly do to get you to no longer have boundaries because they are benefiting greatly from you not having any. That's not God. In Romans chapter 12, Paul said, as long as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. As long as it depends on you. You want the peace. You want the unity. You want the love. You want to be close. That's what you want, and it depends on you. But if you're involved in a situation where that's not a possibility, not because of you, but because this individual does not want that, or this group does not want that, they don't want you in their group. Why? Because they want to cross your boundaries. it is not going to be a possibility for you to live at peace with them. So as long as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. If you cannot live at peace with somebody, God is okay with that. And that's hard to fathom as well, because our modern church thinks that we just have to continue to put up with behavior which is completely unacceptable in the name of a good Christian man or a good Christian woman. We don't. We could take a hard stance against this is not okay. This is going to have to change, or this relationship situation is going to change. That's the way it is. And when the boundaries are crossed and crossed and crossed and crossed and crossed, and you finally take a stand, you just prepare yourself. Because it's going to be some of the hardest things you've ever had to face in your life. That individual is not interested in meeting you halfway, not interested in any type of safety. It will not be the same. So prepare yourself. If you're thinking about, this has gone on for far too long, I'm going to establish these healthy boundaries, it will be one of the most difficult things that ever happened in your life, but God is with you. You still have the grace of God to strengthen you, encourage you, get through that. All of the stuff that's going to happen, let it happen. Let it. The worst thing you could do is drive yourself insane trying to change a situation that you cannot change. Okay, so let's talk about what boundaries actually are. Now, of course, I'm a student of the Boundaries books. Dr. Henry Cloud, John Townsend. I've read all their Boundaries books. They've got the OG book, Boundaries. You got Boundaries in Marriage. That's another book. You got Boundaries with Teens. You got Boundaries. They've got tons of Boundaries books, and I've been reading Boundaries books, I want to say, since 2014 or something like that. Now, so a lot of the stuff, if you're familiar with boundaries, a lot of stuff that I'm going to say is going to click with you. Now, when you're like, I have got to do something about this. I've got to establish some healthy boundaries in my life because this unacceptable behavior is ruining my life. I recommend the Boundaries books. Now, full disclosure, I love Dr. Cloud. Henry, I listen to him all the time. He's one of my handful of podcasts that I listen to regularly. But he's a really good psychologist. Okay? But he and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of theology. Okay? And that's okay. I think that's how it should be. I don't think you should have just a bunch of people lined up where everything matches up with your theology. I think if you're getting a benefit from somebody using their gift, but you're both Christians, but your theology isn't clicking together like a puzzle piece, so what? Okay, so just if that's you, and you're like, I can't listen to nobody unless it is this. If they believe that, I can't listen to them. Well, good luck, because you're not going to agree with absolutely everything 100% of the time with everyone else when it comes to theology. So here's a rule of thumb. If somebody's teaching is building you up, improving the quality of your life, I encourage that. Dr. Cloud, I love him. Love the guy. He's great. Okay, so boundaries. Boundaries, when I first started reading these, I was like, yep, I'm gonna make them do this. I'm gonna make that group do this. I am going to, and I saw boundaries as something that I was trying to get somebody to do. That's not a boundary. A boundary is not making somebody do something. It's wild, I know. And when you struggle with trying to keep things under control, boundaries, when you first start establishing them, you're going to feel like you're in a hurricane because you have no control over what other people do. You have no control over what other people don't do. You cannot control other people through your boundaries, but you can control yourself. Boundaries are not about controlling others. Boundaries are about expressing self-control. Now, when you first learn about boundaries and you first begin to understand what they are, you're going to go through some phases, okay? You're going to not always express your boundaries in a mature way. If that's the case, acknowledge that, regroup, recenter, get back on track. Here's what will happen. If you do not acknowledge that, or if you say, well, I guess I am just a huge failure at boundaries, the person who is taking advantage of you not having boundaries will use that against you. Oh, look at you. Look what you did. Look, oh, you just proved your true colors. No, I had a moment. I'm moving on. So you don't want to stay in a state of not being helpful by being under control. You're going to have the moments. You're a human. You have emotions. You can only take so much, but you don't want to stay there. You don't want it to be a pattern. You don't want to be known for that. Now, the person who is crossing your boundaries, taking advantage of you not having any boundaries, that is where they want you to stay up here in your mind. Because if they can get you rattled, oh, you did this, look at that. Or they'll go way back in time and pull stuff out. Look at what you did back here in 2011. I can never trust you again. Stay focused. These boundaries are not easy for people who take advantage of you not having boundaries. Stay focused. You can validate that experience. Yes, that was wrong. Should have done it. Sorry. But this is still not going to happen. If this continues to happen, this is what will happen with me. Okay? That's a boundary. Boundaries are not ultimatums. I want to repeat that. A boundary is not an ultimatum. That's what I thought they were at first. And the more I learned about these, they're not ultimatums. Boundaries are actually meant to bring you closer to somebody. Closer, not further away. Boundaries are like fences around you that are see-through. You want people to see you. You want to see them. But this area here is my area. I'm responsible for this part. When you enter into my area, that's not going to work for me. Therefore, I will have to leave this fence and go over here to another fence. I don't want that. I want us to be close. But this behavior is preventing us from being close. Now, here's another thing. Boundaries are always to be established in love. That's hard. Because when you've been dealing with egregious boundary crossing from either a religious person, a spouse, a child, a relative, a stepchild, an in-law, a parent, once you know what they are, you're going to be angry at first, okay? But again, you don't want to stay there. Everything that you've gone through because of them not validating your needs, your wants, your boundaries, and completely ignoring that, you're going to get angry, okay? But you don't want to stay there. All of your boundaries, even if you have to be a little bit robotic at first, you have to communicate that with the thought of love. It needs to be a conscious decision that I love this person, I want to be close to them, and that is my ultimate goal. Now, when I did counseling for this years ago, I learned that you can even write out what your boundaries are. That's good. Now, there are certain individuals who don't agree with that. They say you should verbalize it. Okay, verbalize it as well, but also write it down Because when you get time and you really think about it, these are what my boundaries are. This is where I begin and you end. That's good. Share it with them, but do it with love. Now, boundaries will bring you either... Here's what boundaries will do. Boundaries will expose unsafe people. If somebody is a safe person, they will welcome your boundaries. I'm not saying they're going to get on board like right away. I'm not saying they're going to, oh yeah, we're just going to, all of that. Yep, sounds good. I'm not saying that. No, that's not going to happen. But a safe person will acknowledge your boundaries, consider them, and at least meet you in the middle. Because sometimes your boundaries they would be considering would be something that's crossing their boundaries. So that is when you got to meet in the middle. Sometimes that's not a possibility, especially with the religious community. You go to this church, they do not teach you you're completely forgiven. They do not teach you you're completely righteous. But you really love this group of people. But anytime you want to have a meeting with the church leaders, that's not happening. They have already put a label on you. You're going to be the troublemaker. You're going to be the black sheep. They want you to leave. They're not interested in what you have to say. They love you because they love your tithe. They love you because you're another, air quote, member. But they're not interested. They're unsafe. Unsafe people do not welcome your boundaries. Unsafe people are not willing to reason with you, especially in the religious community. Now, here's what should happen in something like that. You have a meeting with them, they consider it, and then they tell you, we just disagree on that. And this is how our church is going to be. We would love for you to stay, but if you can't agree with that and it's just a bad place for you to be, then you might want to move along. I would respect that. But it doesn't always happen like that. You are going to be vilified in a lot of places. You will be in the sermon. You will be posted about on social media. Unsafe people. Safe people might not even agree with what your boundaries are because it doesn't work for them. But they still love you. Safe people welcome your boundaries. Safe people see you as valuable. Safe people want you to honor your own boundaries. When other people don't honor your boundaries, you should always honor your own boundaries. You have no control over somebody not honoring your boundaries. You cannot make somebody honor your boundaries. You can ruin your life trying. Try it out. There's this little bitty dog coming up to me. What's up, little buddy? That's somebody's dog. Like, that's a little house Yorkie. Somebody's little lap dog. Hopefully he doesn't follow me. You can't, what was I saying? You can't make somebody honor your boundaries, but you can always honor your boundaries. And that's why I titled this walk talk, Why You Should Honor Your Boundaries. And the reason why you should honor your boundaries, because you're worth it. You're valuable. You're so valuable. Christ came, lived, died. All of that was because you're valuable. The people who cross your boundaries will attempt to make you think you're not valuable. That's how you know it's not a safe person. Now, a safe person, an unsafe person can mature. An unsafe person can learn to honor your boundaries. They can learn that. That's what you want. That's the goal. And that's ultimately what you want. But an unsafe person will attack you because you have boundaries. An unsafe person will call you names because you have boundaries. An unsafe person will post half-truths, stuff out of context on social media because you have boundaries. Unsafe people will attempt to gaslight you. And if you're not careful, you can eventually begin to believe some of the stuff that they're saying and doing. That's why you always got to refocus. Nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not agreeing with that. That's not the truth. That's not who I am. That's not how that happened. Now, here's what else you could do. You can ruin your life trying to defend yourself. You could try to find everybody that you think they might have changed their mind about you because you got boundaries now, or you can just rest. Let it happen. Let it fall apart. Because it's worse for you to continually allow unacceptable behavior in your life, no matter who it's coming from, than to just let it fall apart because you finally are taking a hard stand on your boundaries. Many people give up on their boundaries. I tried. Didn't work. Got worse and worse and worse. They didn't invite me to Thanksgiving dinner. They talked bad about me and everybody at their Christmas party, and they didn't invite me, and they're my family. They posted stuff on social media and it's not true. Whatever you want to say. They made your life miserable, attempted to make your life miserable, because your boundaries is not allowing them to continue with the way they're living. Your boundaries is not allowing them to continue to treat you in a certain way. Many marriages fail. People get divorced. Somebody has just allowed boundary crossing for 20 years, and they finally said, no, this has got to be different. I cannot live like this. Some changes got to be made. These are the things that I need. These are my boundaries. I'm going to have these things addressed, because if I don't, I will either explode, struggle with an addiction, or live a miserable life. And they decide to take a firm stand on what they need. And the spouse doesn't know how to handle it. Or they've gone to this church for a very long time. They've helped out in the church. They've done this in the office. They've done that. And the person in charge just continues to put more and more and more on this person in the name of servitude. And they said, I just can't do this anymore. I cannot do that part. I can only do this. The church leaders don't like that. So the gossip mill starts. All the tea is poured. And that person is just the worst person in the entire church. They cannot deal with this person having boundaries. And now, here you go. You're no longer part of that church. Why? Because you had boundaries. Could be a spouse who just sits on the couch all day long, doesn't contribute to your marriage, and you've tried to motivate them. You've tried to do everything you possibly can to say, hey, I need more from you. This is impacting my life negatively. Please. They ain't gonna do it. Okay. My stress level is too high. That's not okay with my boundaries. My workload is too high. That's not okay with my boundaries. All of these things that are happening in my mind because I am so overloaded and you are not contributing like an adult should contribute. This is not going to be okay. This healthy change has got to happen, or else this marriage is not going to be close. I want to be close to you, but you're going to have to meet me in the middle on this. I love you. I freaking love you. Again, there's the love. You want to be close. Now, they've got a decision to make at that point. You've got a decision to make at that point. Now, many people, they throw up the the flag, or the white flag, and they go to their nearest divorce attorney. That's your decision if you decide to do that. I don't think there's any right or wrong decision in this. Here's what I always recommend, because somebody ultimately always messages me about this, about a spouse who just will not stop crossing boundaries. I always say, follow your heart. Follow your heart. Now the legalist will say, oh, you should never follow your heart. It's deceitful and wicked. And then we're going right back to proof texting, covenant mixture theology. So you used to have a bad heart. You got a good heart now. Ezekiel 36:26 prophesied about this. I will remove your heart and give you a new heart. Your heart is not deceitful and wicked. Unbelievers have deceitful and wicked hearts. You, according to the book of Romans, you have an obedient heart. You've got a loving heart. You've got a soft heart. You've got a heart that wants peace. You've got a heart that wants... you're a natural peacemaker at heart. This is why we say, follow your heart. You can't go wrong with following your heart. That takes all the pressure off you, takes all the pressure off anybody asking, what should I do? I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying follow your heart. And you could have a spouse that has an extreme addiction. They drink. It's impacting the kids. It's impacting you. They smoke. I'm not talking about cigarettes. Cigarettes are bad, but I'm talking about smoking the green, the green stuff. And they're just addicted to that. And it's just, they're always in a fog. They're always grumpy unless they can get a hit. This is going to have to change. I cannot deal with this in my life anymore. This is, if you are going to continue in this addiction, we are not going to be able to be close. Anytime you decide to drink, I am going to separate myself from this situation. Anytime you've got to smoke, I am going to separate myself from this situation. I hope you decide to get some help, to stop the drinking, to stop the smoking the weed, to stop looking at the porn. Think about porn. There are so many Christians who struggle with porn, and that hurts your spouse's feelings. Oh, it's just something innocent. We look at it together. It's not okay. God did not create sex to be viewed at so that you can look at it in a way which is not involved in the sanctity of your marriage. That hurts your spouse's feelings. Even liking an attractive person's picture on social media. They could see that. Just don't do it. These are the boundaries that you should be thinking about when you have somebody who you love. Is what I'm about to do going to dishonor this person who I love? Messaging other people on social media? Not okay. When it comes to discussing intimate things or private things, that's not normal. That's not okay. That is a boundary crossing. It's crossing your spouse's boundary of honoring one another. No matter what problems you're going through, you never have an excuse to be intimate emotionally or physically with another person when you are still married. You can use whatever excuse you want. You're crossing a boundary. It's not okay. Whether you're doing great in your marriage and it's just something flirty, friend, that's crossing major boundaries. The Holy Spirit will never lead you into sharing something so special with somebody else. So, a rule of thumb, if my spouse was sitting right here next to me, would this hurt their feelings? If it's but they did this to me. None of that. We ain't talking about none of that. getting even stuff. You can come up with whatever excuse you want to come up with. We're talking about if you are honoring your vows, what are you doing? Are you honoring them in private? Are you honoring them when your marriage is hanging on by a thread? Or are you just looking for anybody and everybody to validate your choices? You might consider yourself an unsafe person. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm saying you're struggling with this, and it's something to think about, because you don't want to dishonor somebody just because they dishonor you or because you feel dishonored. You want to listen to the Holy Spirit within you, and you want to express everything that Christ has in here. And Jesus would not lead you into doing such a thing. If you've done it in the past, okay. You're already forgiven. What's the pattern? This forgiveness that you already have, this grace that you already have, is what will mature you into the self-control of not crossing these boundaries of somebody that you love. You're going to cause more destruction. It's not going to solve anything. It's going to make things worse. It's going to get other people involved in your business. That's just going to make things worse. And if you just really need to talk to somebody about these problems, okay, great. Talk to somebody who loves you both. Choose an advocate who is 100% for you, 100% for your loved one. Choose somebody who you know this person will never judge the other person in a poor way based on what you say. If you don't do that, all that is gossiping. That's all it's doing. We have to have healthy boundaries for ourselves. We have to have healthy boundaries for others. Now, what would be a healthy boundary for others is, this is where I am at, okay? You can't see me on the podcast, but I'm making a square. That square is the fence. I'm in here. You guys are out there. I got a gate that I can open, and I want you to come in and be in my life. But in here, these are my boundaries. Okay, you're in here. So the gate is good. That's your boundary. It's a see-through gate. It's not a wall. You're not shutting people out. You're looking outside the gate saying, hey, I really want to be involved with your life. I really want to be close to you. I love you. But I've already texted you 5 times. I've FaceTimed you 3 times. You're ignoring me. I've invited you out to dinner. I don't know how many times. You're ignoring me. So if you want to be involved with my life, please come in. Open up the gate. I love you. Come in here. You know, they might be on the outside of the fence gaslighting you, calling you names. Just stay in love, stay in the fence, and say, well, I'm sorry you feel like that about me. I would love for you to be a part of my life, but I am not going to reach outside this fence and pull you in. I want you to come in. Now think about that gate as well. So that gate will also allow you to take out your own trash, because you're going to have some trash that needs taken out too. You want to think about yourself. What am I doing, which is probably crossing somebody else's boundary? You got to think about that. What behaviors, what attitudes is coming from me, which clearly this person is causing them harm? Take some accountability for yourself. Take some responsibility. Be willing to listen to the other party. That's what the fence is for. You got the gate. You got the fence. You open up the gate. Take your trash out. Yes, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have talked to you like that. I shouldn't have done that. I should have been more sensitive about that. I apologize. Forgive me. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, let's go have a cup of coffee, or let's get dinner, whatever. Take your own trash out. You have to take personal responsibility for yourself. You have to take accountability. Unsafe people do not take accountability. That's the difference. it would absolutely kill them. I mean, it's, you like it would be just the second coming of Christ if this individual would take some responsibility, just responsibility or accountability for one thing, then you get that insanity loop going on again where you're trying to get them to realize what they're doing wrong. No, let you attempting to get somebody else to see what they're doing, to take responsibility, let that be a red flag. Okay, I am outside of my fence. I'm gonna get back in my fence, and I'm gonna look over there, and I'm gonna let them know, hey, gate's open, but that's not gonna be okay in here with me. Love you. I want you in here. You cannot force somebody to take accountability. You cannot force somebody to take responsibility. That has to be a decision on their own. But here's what you can do. You can scramble. You can try to get them to. It's really difficult for me because I'm a boss, like a literal boss. I run a company. I have employees. So it is my job to get things done. I've got sales to make, administrative things to do. I've got all of this stuff, okay? And we get stuff done around here at Alarm Security. That's what we do. Everybody that works here, they know we're always boom, 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 boom. We get stuff done. But you can't do that when it comes to a personal relationship. They have to take responsibility for themselves, and you can't force them to do that. Also, just real quickly, at work, you can't cross boundaries as a boss. That's something I had to learn too. When somebody is clearly overworked, we need to figure out a way to lighten that load a little bit. Or when somebody is clearly slacking off, we need to do what we got to do to get them back on track to contribute more. So the boundaries at work can come from a boss in that way, but it can also come from an employee the other way. You're not going to talk to me like that just because you write my paycheck. So I have to be careful on how I talk to somebody. When I talk to an employee, I never want them to feel like they are an employee. I want them to feel like we are equal individuals working together. And back when I first started, 25 years ago nearly, I ripped into people and spoke to people in ways that I shouldn't have, and I've learned my lessons. Now I know, no matter what happens, do not take the bait, do not retaliate, let them say whatever they want to say, and then you can fire them if you want, because you're the boss. They don't get to talk to you like that. They can be replaced if they talk to you like that. You have to remember what is helpful. What is helpful? What is helpful? Helpful. Let that be just the key word when it comes to establishing your boundaries. Is this helpful? Is me calling you an MFer helpful? Nope. They really ticked me off though, but I'm not going to call them a name. I'm going to say, okay, come on in. Let's have a sit down. Now, shouldn't have done that, and this is why, and let's not do that again, okay? If it continues, this is not going to work out. That is helpful, okay, at work. Maybe you've got somebody on your social media who just keeps ripping into you, and you want to be a nice person, you want to let them have their opinion, comment under their comment. Hey, I've noticed that recently you've been pretty aggressive in the comments on my posts. I don't want to have to block you, but if you keep doing this, I'm going to have to block you. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Having a social media ministry, good Lord. If I just went back and forth and was not helpful by calling people names and stupid, and sometimes I even, I dip my toe in it. I'm like, nah, don't do that. Don't be sarcastic. It's not helpful. It's got to be helpful. Now, we also want to talk about boundaries with yourself. Boundaries with yourself. For example, I'm in addiction recovery, so I have some boundaries for myself. So some of the boundaries that I have is I'm not going to allow alcohol to go in my mouth. Pretty simple boundary, right? That's a personal boundary. Okay? If I notice something on my social media feed which is nearly pornographic, I am going to block that account. I don't need that. I don't need to be scrolling and see half-naked women 24/7. And what's really interesting is certain platforms will push that on your feed because they know you're a 42-year-old male. And it keeps coming. You got to block. You got to tap not interested. You got to do all the stuff that you can do to set healthy boundaries for yourself. Because it's easy to let your mind wander because, you're a human. You've got sexual needs, and you have to have boundaries for yourself. If you're a female, if you're an attractive female, or say you're not even attractive, say you're just a female, and men message you, but you're married, what are you going to do? You're going to just flirt with them? You're just going to talk to them about stuff you shouldn't be talking to them about? That's not honoring your spouse. Set a boundary for yourself. I'm going to block this person. I'm not even going to respond. Boundaries for yourself keep you focused, keep your mindset in the right frame, and they're just as important as boundaries for others. So, what I wanted to finish everything up with today was maybe you're in a situation where you know you need to set some healthy boundaries. You already know it. You're struggling with resentment. You feel lonely. You feel discarded. You feel overlooked. You feel disrespected. You feel unvaluable. You feel like there is absolutely no value for you. This individual or this group does not value you. They don't value you. They continue and continue and continue and continue and continue and continue to cross your boundaries, and your life is not very good when it comes to this particular relationship or group. Sit down, write out what your boundaries are. Don't stop at 1 or 2 or 5. Keep going. This is what I need. This is what I need. This is impacting my life negatively. This is impacting my life negatively. This is what I need. This is not okay. This is not normal. I'm not going to be talked to like this. All of these things, look at them, and then here's what you do. What can I do to establish these boundaries? Not them. Not them. Okay, we're not going to make a boundaries list and then say they need to do it. What can I do? Boundaries are for you. Okay? If you feel like you're attempting to control somebody else, remember, they might not honor your boundaries. That is why it is important for you to honor your own boundaries. The goal is to get them to honor your boundaries, but you might not attain that. You got to be at peace with that. But here's what you can control. You can control you honoring your boundaries. You could take yourself out to eat. You could buy yourself the nice filet mignon. You could take yourself to the movies. You can go play a round of golf by yourself. You can enjoy your life without that particular boundary crossing relationship. You can also surround yourself with people who love you. Safe people. People who care about you. People who see you as valuable. That's another option as well. But you can't control anybody. Again, you can ruin your life trying. Or you can rest. Trust God and understand how valuable you are. How valuable are you? You are so valuable. Jesus took 39 lashes. Why was it 39? because 40 lashes was known to kill a man, and they wanted him to stay alive so they could torture him. He did that because of your value. He was punched in the face because of your value. He was spat on because of your value. Had nails pushed into his skull. Thorns pushed into his skull because of your value. And literally nailed to a cross because of your value. So if you think that you're not valuable because of the treatment of people who are just not safe in your life, remember what Christ came to earth to do. For God so loved the world that he gave Jesus. If he didn't love you, if you weren't valuable, he wouldn't love you. And if he didn't love you, you wouldn't be valuable. You're valuable, friend. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to purge up and out the unhealthy relationships. It's going to allow you to not live a life of resentment. You're worth it. Your stress level is worth it. Your mental health is worth it. Your work level is worth it. Your mindset about who you are as a new creation is worth it. You're worth it. You're valuable. That is why you should honor your own boundaries. All right, guys. So I hope this has encouraged you today. I hope it's brought to light some truth. You should always tell the truth about yourself. What's the truth? You're righteous. You're holy. You're blameless. You're a new creation. You're a child of God. There's nothing wrong with you, and you are awesome. So always tell the truth about yourself. Always be yourself. Love y'all.